Hi guys, this is Real. How's everyone doing today? Ajabala Kemcho. Sup Keseho. So today I'm discussing the partial solar eclipse that is happening in about 1 or 2 days from you watching this video, if you watched it right when I uploaded it. So that's going to be like, if you're living in the East, then the 25th night, October. And if you're living in the United States or the West somewhere, then it will be like either the 24th night or the 25th day. Okay. I tend to only look at it uh, based off of nights. I don't really say if the eclipses or new or full moon is happening during the day, but you can kind of look at it as it's happening either the 24th night or the 25th day. Okay. And then the lunar eclipse is more of a full lunar eclipse. It's not a partial one. And it's happening about 15 days after. Okay. All it is, the solar and lunar eclipse, is when there's a new moon and full moon happening in the signs where Rahu and Ketu are happening as well. Okay. And all partial means is that, hey, when the new moon happens or the full moon happens, the planets are quite a bit apart from Rahu and Ketu. Like, for example, in this solar eclipse, it's partial because they're about a good 12 degrees away from Ketu when the new moon happens, which is exactly when the moon crosses over the sun. But when the full moon happens, when sun and moon are right across from each other, they're both about only a few degrees away from Rahu and Ketu. So it's more full, you can call it. Okay. I'm going to keep this video a little bit short. I'm not going to, over exaggerate on certain generalized points. Okay. Like, this is going to be a whole new cycle and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, that's true. But I could say that for any day. Okay. What's so special about this day? Now, for those of you guys who haven't watched my Sun and Venus in Libra video, it's going to I'm going to refer to it a lot in this video. So just keep that in mind. If you need more information on that, you can always watch that video. Now, starting from here. So just a little synopsis. So Sun and Venus are both conjunct, and Venus is combust, transiting through Libra. Okay. Libra, as you know, is Sun's debilitation sign, and Libra is also Venus's own sign. Okay, so and it's conjunct Ketu. So at a general theme, what's happening here very, very quickly is that the Venus is trying to find enjoyment from other people. However, the ego is strongly, strongly dominating here. And yeah, sure, you're trying to find enjoyment from other people, but you're also trying to find all your happiness and fulfillment in other people as well, which it can kind of go over the top. Now, we know that Ketu is here and Saturn is in Capricorn, throwing a 10th aspect on Libra. So I encouraged everyone that if you recognize that certain relations or certain things that you're doing is not in your karma, I'd strongly consider you detaching from those things. Okay. Now, adding this solar eclipse or this new moon coming in here. Okay, so the moon comes in. So I don't know about you guys, but ever since this transit started, there has been a little bit of this flavor of doing things for other people. Like, I've been religiously going to the gym every day and cleaning up my diet and all this kind of stuff. Slightly for the wrong reasons, but I know this is temporary and it will pass, and it's a good stress reliever and all this kind of stuff. But you could be noticing that you are doing a little bit more based off of other people's expectations. Okay. Now, the moon comes in. So the moon's it's very quick. It's only going to last for a very short period of time. Okay. Especially because the moon is only close to the sun for a certain amount of days. So what's happening here is that, okay, right now you're focused on the present, right? Because it's Venus and sun there, okay, together. So Venus and sun, they're prioritizing the present a lot. But when moon comes in, obviously a lot of our minds have a lot of dirt and subconscious garbage associated with it, or even conscious garbage. But all this is going to be more sprung to life when this happens. So right now you could be kind of doing things in the present to enjoy or satisfy other people's expectations and things like that. When this moon comes in, you will see, and it's a very spiritual thing when a new moon happens, especially when it's an eclipse, and especially in this sign, okay, with Venus there as well. So you're going to kind of be able to, and if you're doing all the other work, of course, you're going to be able to notice the patterns that you're doing and how it relates more to past trauma. Now, what I mean by past trauma, everybody has different definitions of what trauma is, okay? Some people view it as like only really, really serious things, and some people view trauma as like everything, okay? I'm defining trauma here as anything that has happened, big, small, good, bad, extreme, not extreme, that has subconsciously or consciously altered your behavior in some way, in any shape, form, or fashion. Okay, so when the moon comes in, you will notice how some of the things that you're doing, how it's being connected to something that has happened in your past. Okay, and being that we're only about a day or two out, I can already kind of feel this coming. But so that's kind of what's happening here. Okay, so it's a good day and it's Diwali time. So for those of you in India, you guys might be fasting and all this. It's a really good time to fast, meditate. Also, it's a good time, yeah, you're spending a lot of time with friends and family. It's a good time to notice some of the bad habits we have in regards to our friends and family. Okay, friends and family are important, all this kind of stuff. I get it, but we do have certain bad habits associated with spending time with friends and family, and that could be cleaned up, okay? Whether that be, doing stuff for other people too much or saying stuff to please other people, all this kind of stuff, okay? So we're able to notice these things a lot more, okay? So like I said, the focus here is that, okay, right now, you've been kind of doing things, right? But then when moon comes in, you'll notice how the things you're doing are more strongly connected to anything that's happened in the past. Okay. Now, when and just real quick, so now that when this new moon happens, Ketu is there, right? So what I'd encourage you guys to do also is when you notice these behaviors, like I said, try to see if you can connect it to something in the past, how karmic was that, all that kind of stuff, but don't go down that rabbit hole too much. But then also determine, okay, the things am I continuing to do? Is it in my karma or is it not? Okay. Obviously, some things have changed, but some things you're going to continue to have to do because of your karma. Okay. You're going to have to deal with certain things. You're going to have to do certain things, like I said, for possibly friends or family or something that, it's not spiritually recommended or things like that, but it's not so black and white, right? Sometimes you have to do things, okay? So just something to keep in mind here, that, okay, if you have to put up with something from someone or do something for someone, even if those energies are activated to somehow please other people or do something for someone for their own benefit or something like that, even if you fulfill their ego expectations, that could be okay. You have to determine these things for yourself. Now, moving on to the lunar eclipse, okay, which is the full moon that's happening in the beginning to middle of November. So what's happening here is that, okay, moon and the sun sun and Venus are with Ketu, and moon is with Rahu. Okay, so what this could mean is that, okay, so the moon has already. So the first thing to understand is that the sun is with Venus and Ketu, kind of at the middle end of Libra. Okay, it's right around 20 degrees. So what this means is that the sun is being forced to really, really only do things. It's kind of, your ego's kind of going to go under a realization that, okay, I can enjoy, but only with the people I'm karmically connected to. Okay, now you might not realize this consciously, but you'll realize this a little bit subconsciously, or vice versa. Okay, because the sun is a little bit tricky to explain, but the point is that, like I said, the sun is with Venus, but has just gone through Ketu. Okay, so whether you learn or not from the sun's frustrations and how you learn is kind of up to you. Okay, to an extent. Now the moon is on the other side, and it has just passed through Rahu. Okay, so and it's in Aries. So what could happen is, okay, the sun could just realize exactly what I just said, but the moon is kind of like, it's the mind now, right? So it's in Aries, which kind of represents new changes, right? It's ruled by Mars. So because the sun is a little bit frustrated, when the sun and moon, when there's a full moon, they kind of work the best, okay? Which is why Punam or full moon is highly auspicious. Now, the best is, what I mean by they work the best directly from a spiritual standpoint, okay? There's other places where they work could be working indirectly better, okay? But to move on. So the moon in Aries, having just gone through Rahu, you could make some changes, okay? The mind is kind of going to want to make changes, okay? It's going to recognize more better the karmas that you could have and things like that, especially because Saturn's aspect on this whole situation is very, very strong, okay? Especially when the solar eclipse happened, or is going to happen at the end of October. Saturn is stationary, okay? Which is it's very, very strong there. So when the solar eclipse happened, the your karmas could be very, very exposed highly, okay? Now, when the lunar eclipse happens, which is more full, more closer to the nodes, Saturn is not quite as um, Saturn is not quite as stationary. Okay, it's kind of slowly starting to pick up speed. It's not all the way back there yet, but it's getting there. But the other important thing is that for Moon, now that it's in Aries, Mars has just gone retrograde. Okay, so it's kind of, you could say it's stationary retrograde, but it's retrograde not at its full speed, which is very, very also important in a unique energy. Okay, but it's also with Rahu. So what this means is that the Moon, based off of the sun's frustration and the karmic realization, the moon is kind of going to want to make some changes, okay? And Mars is stationary retrograde, like kind of picking up speed. So it's kind of going to be on board here. It's pretty strong, okay? But now this is great to make changes from a mental standpoint, but Rahu is here also, okay? So what this means is, one, we need to be more careful when making changes. We need to think things through 2-3 times before we do anything. And the next point is that we want to make the changes internally first, because see, these eclipses are not that long, okay? So we don't need to, this energy could be a little bit overwhelming when the lunar eclipse happens, because like I said, it's with Rahu and Mars is kind of slow retrograde, picking up speed. So we can understand the changes internally first. We can let them sink in before we make the changes externally. We do not need to rush into any external changes, but we could, using this energies, kind of tap into certain levels of awareness and intuition and kind of see what we need to do. And then after the eclipse is over, possibly, we could ponder on these and decide at a later, more calm, stable point whether to make these changes, okay? So I hope this all made sense. So if you have any questions or comments, you can let me know. And until next time, I'll talk to everyone later. Thank you very much for watching.